NPR News, Washington.
At last glance on Wall Street, Dow is up 72 points. This is NPR News. Israel and Syria are trading stern warnings today after reports that their forces exchanged gunfire in the Golan Heights. An Israeli jeep reportedly came under fire during a patrol. Syria says it destroyed an Israeli vehicle that crossed the ceasefire line in the Golan Heights overnight. Israel's military chief, Lieutenant General Benny Gantz, said Syrian President Bashar al-Assad would, quote, bear the consequences of any more attacks on Israeli forces near the Syrian border. Insurgents in Afghanistan are again targeting law enforcement. An Afghan official says at least 6 policemen were killed today in the western province Herat when their vehicle hit explosives that were buried in the road. Security forces are increasingly taking the lead in trying to restore law and order in their country ahead of the international military drawdown by the end of next year. In Myanmar, also known as Burma, 7 Muslims have been handed time in prison for the killing of a Buddhist monk during sectarian violence in March. NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports a Buddhist was one of more than 40 people killed in more than a week of conflict.
The court in the central Burmese town of Maytila handed down sentences ranging from 2 years to life in prison. So far, no Buddhists have been sentenced in the riots, which began over a petty dispute in a jewelry shop. Residents who fled to refugee camps are now beginning to return home. Tensions between the two groups remain high, and soldiers are still stationed in the town to prevent further violence. The verdict came as President Thein Sein is visiting the U.S., the first by a Burmese president since 1966. In a speech yesterday, Thein Sein pledged to end the communal violence and bring lawbreakers to justice. Anthony Kuhn, NPR News, Jakarta.
U.S. stocks trading higher with the Dow up 73 at 50,408. I'm Lakshmi Singh, NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from America's Natural Gas. Learn how Los Angeles reduced emissions for its entire bus fleet by switching to natural gas. Thinkaboutit.org.
Hi, it's Diane Rain. You've heard the headlines. Now find out what they mean for you. On the Friday News Roundup, a panel of top journalists joins me to offer expert analysis of the week's top stories. Join us each Friday. We ask the questions you want answered.
Friday morning beginning at 10 on 90.1 WFYI.
I'm Michelle Martin, and this is Tell Me More from NPR News. We'd like to start today by mentioning that, as you would imagine, NPR is continuing to follow developments concerning that deadly tornado that struck Oklahoma yesterday. We hope you will stay tuned to your public radio station or check our website, npr.org, for the latest updates. Now, though, we are going to turn to the debate about balancing safety and civil liberties in New York City. On Monday, closing arguments were heard in a federal court challenge to the New York City Police Department's stop and frisk policy. For years, civil rights groups have accused the department of racial profiling and point to data that 87% of the stops last year were of Black and Hispanic people. But city officials, including New York City's mayor, Michael Bloomberg, continue to defend stop and frisk.
I can't imagine any rational person saying that the techniques are not working and that we should stop them.
We wanted to talk more about the whole question of racial profiling in this case and more broadly. So we're joined now by 2 law professors who've been following this issue for decades. David Harris is professor of law and a distinguished faculty scholar at the University of Pittsburgh. Professor Harris, thank you so much for joining us.
It's good to be with you, Michelle.
Thank you. And Dolores Jones-Brown is a professor in the Department of Law and Police Science at John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York. Professor Jones-Brown, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For people who have not been following these events in New York City, why is it that this policy in New York City has come under such intense scrutiny from so many people for so many years?
Well, there are 2 primary issues. One is that 87% of those stops involve Black and Latino persons, and almost 90% of those stops are people who are innocent as opposed to who are found to be involved in criminality. There is the suggestion that the stops are for the purpose of finding guns. However, in 98.8% of all cases, no gun